Hello and welcome to Frank's School. Summertime, I'm getting ever more informal. I do intend to keep my shirt on, but it's summer and I get hot and sweaty out there, and here in the basement it's cool. Alright, coming to the end of the year, after this video I've got 3 more videos left to make 180 days in the second year, and I'm being possessive about what will I do. And I'm also going slow about it. If you haven't noticed already, I've already begun to teach the third year. Those videos number 3.5.1 or something. Anyway, updates. There are certain projects that I mentioned or subjects that I mentioned throughout the year that could use an update. And I find myself using the word projects. Well, that's going to become projects. That's the way you spell it with my spelling system, RTalk Writing. And projects, I guess I'd underline this, except it becomes obvious, projects. That's going to be an entire section of my course, of my school, Frank's School. It's going to go far, I think. It's going to be very different. But anyway, here are some projects. Contour gardening. Back in May, or no, April maybe, maybe even before, I started a garden done on a contour, and you could find that, you could search that, and I think you'd find it, the number. I'm not only contour gardening on perfect contours, I do everything that way. I'm also gardening with tires, which ultimately may be of more interest to some people. I sort of stumbled onto that. I wasn't necessarily going to do it, but I'd heard of it. I didn't invent the idea. And I thought, why not? There's all these tires on the farm. Well, with that system, and you'll see in the next video, you'll see what the garden looks like. There was no plowing. All I did was shovel turned one clod of ground over. There was no plowing, no rototilling, there was no hoeing, no weeding. By that I mean no weeding. I haven't done any. I didn't spray anything. I didn't dust anything. I didn't fertilize anything, and I didn't touch a hose. I carried water when I first put the plants in. So I've been very, very little to that garden. Yes, it's been mowed. Now that I hadn't asked for that to happen. That sort of happened independently. The guys who mow around the house had mowed that before, just continued mowing it. Seemed like a lot of work to me. They used a string trimmer, and they did it all real fine. I would not have done that, but I would have mowed. But I would have mowed to make hay out of it, not just mowed. Or, I mean, I don't have the animals there to graze, but possibly sheep or cows would leave the plants alone. They don't just eat any old thing. Now a goat would probably eat everything, but I would have done those as alternatives. Or else mowed the way they mowed, with a push mower, not a string trimmer. I would have let it go ragged. And of course, I mentioned again and again, my barley, they mowed it right off. They didn't know that was barley. If it had been covered, when I went to Europe, if there had been something laid over each one of those tires, it could have been a piece of cardboard. I put plexiglass over one. It could have been anything. If they had been covered one night, it would have added 18 days to the garden. I had to replant. So you can imagine how much bigger that would have been. You're going to see the pinetum that's up the hill here. A pinetum, you might have to look that up. It's a collection of conifers for the purpose of study. You'll see it needs to be weeded badly, but I'm not worried about it. I'll do that. You're going to see a tank up here that I've begun to build. Well, I almost have it finished. I hope it'll hold water. I think it will. I took silo staves and banded them together with high tensile fence and ratchets. I've got 3 on there now. That isn't quite done yet, but as a project, when it's one, it won't be spelled this way. I'll show that later in the summer, how that's coming. The plastic you're going to see some plastic culvert that my neighbor Andy, the blacksmith, you've seen him before. He brought that to me. And what I found is if I took it and split it, I could reuse it, and you'll see that. I think you'll understand. And I'm sorry, my camera, I moved it too fast. I'm back in that. I'm not used to doing that. On the trip in Europe, I was better. The Beast, that huge outdoor furnace, you'll see that it's in progress, moved a little bit. Pallets. Well, I work with pallets some, and you'll see that again, how I use them up in the field. Now, I did want to say this, that I use 3 pallets like that, not 4. And this is something I used to do in school, keep somewhere around, because I remember when I first learned that. I've got 4 shingles here, and there's just a nail sticking through them. I mean, so I've just got 4 sticks or something. It's not even square, and it's not rigid. You know, in a sense, you could say there's no strength to it. But if you take 3, it's rigid. It will not sway. And I remember as a kid thinking, "Wow, you mean 3 is stronger than 4?" Yeah, and yeah, actually, in a way, it's more rigid. And so I put the pallets in 3s. 4s would have been more pallets, but it wouldn't have been nearly as good. And I also wanted to show you a quick release knot. Now here I've got both hands. I did it up in the field, but I think I can maybe show you better here. Whenever I do this with baler twine, I always take the knot. I find the knot and use that. I don't want that to interfere with my loop. I called that loop a pulley. What you do is you get a mechanical advantage by doing this. I mean, if I pulled on that hard, I'd probably break my thing. But anyway, what I couldn't really show you is when you draw it up, and as I say, it's a mechanical advantage. It works like a little pulley. And then you pinch it, and you put that knot around, and then if by keeping it pinched, you can hold that tension. And there you've got a quick release knot. Quick release because if you pull it, it'll just come out. That's a very handy knot to know. Alright, and at the end of this video, this next one, the screen goes black. Actually, the video's still on. If you'll turn the sound all the way up, you'll hear frogs. And I wanted to contrast the sound of the symphony of frogs in the meadow with the fireworks from 10 miles away in the town. Now you can hear the fireworks. I'm just as glad you didn't hear a huge boom, because if you had that cranked up all of a sudden, even though it's 10 miles away, boom, you would hear that in the night, and the frogs would keep singing. And there were fireflies too, but my camera just couldn't pick that up. All right, well, I got 3 days to go. See you next time.